Hey everybody, it's your old pal Chuck, and I'm back with another review. And today we're taking a look at, from Transformers Siege, this is Voyager class, Starscream. Now, a few things I want to go over with this figure before we get into the full review proper. One thing you're going to notice is when you get the figure out of the packaging, it is partially transformed. What you're going to want to do is open up the feet, extend the arms, and then adjust the thruster here on the back. The instructions only talk about adjusting the thruster and then positioning the wings. That's a little strange because also you have to rotate the fists, which you should be careful with because they are on mushroom pegs, and one of mine almost came out. Now, getting into the figure proper, one thing you're going to notice as soon as you get it in your hands is that there's a lot of texture and there's a tactile feel that, at least from my experience, I haven't felt on the other Siege Voyagers or even the Siege Deluxes. I don't have Optimus Prime, so I can't say that with 100% certainty, but of the figures I've handled, which are the Wave 1 Deluxes and Megatron, this is the first one that you can really feel the texture and the greebling. This is also the first figure where the battle damage that they've been putting on is very apparent and noticeable. I'm not saying it's bad, not saying it's good, I'm just saying it's there. I know a lot of people like to wash this off, and I think it might be an issue, especially down here on the legs where you have blue paint covered in like a dirty silver paint. Now, for the overall look, obviously this is based on the Tetrajet from G1. But in terms of the greebling and the details, if you remember the comics and the Undersea-based saga where Starscream became super powerful, that is, like, I remember a lot of that etched in detailing. That's where it's, in my opinion, I think it's coming from. Now, some people have complained that this is basically a shell former. As you'll see when we get into the transformation, it's not. And I do just want to remind people that, much like Ironhide and Ratchet from the original G1 cartoon, the Seekers transforming into Tetrajets, because basically it was their Earth robot modes turning into Cybertronian vehicle modes, were never made to be turned into toys and thus not have a functional ability. So what I'm saying is, if you're looking for a Tetrajet, official Tetrajet Seeker Transformer, that's not, I mean, I don't want to say this is a shell former, but has a bit more going on for it than this does, you might have to wait for the Masterpiece line. Other than that, to get into the articulation, there is a ball-jointed neck, universal joint at the shoulder, double jointed elbows. A lot of that is for the transformation. The aforementioned rotation at the wrists, universal joint at the hips, swivel at the upper part of the leg, nice deep knee bend, and you do have ankle pivot. You can, of course, also position the wings in a little more flared manner. I sometimes do that, but I usually tend to prefer the standard Seeker position. By the way, one thing I also want to mention, and this has become a pet peeve of mine over the years. A lot of the Starscream and obviously Seeker figures we've gotten, even going back to classics, have had a problem with the null ray. And it's either oversized to a point that the wings interfere with the movement of the arms while the null ray is on the arm, or it's very small and undersized and mispositioned. I have to say, these are probably the best null rays on a Seeker figure I've seen in a while. I don't have the wings angled back. The arms can move freely. I mean, I think this is great. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing somehow this figure being redone and transforming into one like a G1 style. Was that the F-14? I think that would be really great. And of course, I should also mention that there are the posts and holes and pegs that you can for example, right there on the shoulder that you can peg your battle effects and combine your weapons with. The null rays themselves don't combine at all, but that's to be understood. So, with all that said and done, we'll pause right here and then get into the transformation of the figure. Okay, so here we are. We're back. I've gone ahead and returned Starscream to what I would consider a neutral pose. First step of the transformation, make your life easy. Go ahead and remove the null rays. So, quick look there if you want to see what they look like up close. These actually look like they could make some pretty cool rifles in the siege line. I don't know if they'll ever, do a battle pack or something, but we'll just put those off to the side for now. The next step is you want to start with the arms, and you're going to open up the side here, just like so, and you'll collapse the arms up. Now, this is how they come in package, as I mentioned, but actually they're even rotated in like that with the fist rotated forward. So just so you're aware of that. And while you have this open, go ahead and rotate the whole fist in so everything's collapsed up into place. We're going to do that again on this side. Just the double hinge there will help quite nicely. Some reviewers have mentioned being able to do that with without opening the panel, but I mean you would have to open it to put the fist away, so I figure why not? And let's make our lives easy now. Fold the wings back and up out of the way, just so you have a little more room to work with. Now, here comes a little bit of a tricky situation. I'm going to deviate from the instructions a little bit. What I would suggest doing next is pulling back on the fins here and rotating them down. This is another bit of mistransformation where the figure comes in the package. You'll notice this gray panel right where my finger is. In packaging, or at least in mine, this was folded down all the way into a cavity right there. That's wrong. And it's actually, thankfully, not that hard to get out. What you should notice is right there on my finger is a little slot. These pylons, which will form the nose cone of the Tetrajet, as well as Starscream's vents, should fold up. Now, you can either wiggle jiggle the panel in once these are pegged into place, but what I like to do is fold them up and then slide and then peg them into place on the back. And that's how that panel is supposed to be stored. And I'll show you in just a second what that panel does. First, what you want to do is come down here and then proceed to peg the two sides together, forming the nose cone of the jet. Bring that backpack up on this hinge right here. This actually frictions into place. Some reviewers have shown that it can be removed and you can actually have a Starscream without his pylons and a separate Tetrajet. I don't know why you would want to do that. I really am not going to say this figure is a shell former. There is a lot going on. Now, back to this panel. What you want to go ahead and do is flip it up. There is a tab on it that will peg into the back of Starscream's head, and I think that's brilliant because that actually will secure the head in place so it doesn't move around and you run the risk of getting stuck when trying to go from vehicle mode to robot mode. And now we come to the most problematic part of this figure, and it's this chest piece. As other reviewers have shown, the piece, and let me flip it up here, is not, and as I'm flipping it up, I'm also pushing Starscream's head into that cavity. The piece is not properly pegged on. It's basically a half tabs peg on each side that isn't secured properly. And basically any type of force on this chest piece causes it to pop off. And to be honest, with play over time, since it's only held in by friction, there's a strong possibility that will just no longer hold on. I mean, in robot mode, it's fine. It's pegged into place. In vehicle mode, it's fine. It's pegged into place. It's during transformation that you have the issue. Now, I'm going to be very honest, and I'm going to say something that's probably going to shock a lot of you. I don't want Hasbro to fix this for Thundercracker or Skywar. They have a history of when there's problems like this that are quite noticeable, universal, everybody complains about it, that they will fix it, but then it shows up on a secondary use of the mold as a different character. And then the people who were the early adopters of the mold, like here, are out of luck because they can't get that version of the character with the fixed mold, or they'll have to go out and buy the new figure again because it's released in a revision case. If Hasbro would fix this and then say, hey, send us your Starscreams, pay a little shipping, we'll send you the fixed figure, that would be fine. But as it is, leave it, chalk it up to a mistake. I mean, a lot of people, I don't see these becoming the greatest figures of all time. So I personally don't see a point in fixing it. So you have this whole section flipped up now. You have the head down pretty much in place. Let's come on down to the feet. What you want to do is fold this section down, fold the blue toe up. That will form the thrusters. Like I said, they actually come collapsed in packaging. Rotate the figure around at the waist. And I like to angle the arms out a little just to give my hands a little bit of work room. And here's something really cool. You're going to bend the legs backwards. They're going to slot into place here in this rear section. But what's nice is there's these spring-loaded shin covers that realistically Hasbro didn't have to do. They could have left the figure hollow, but instead they made sure to have, even though technically I guess you can say it is hollow, they do have something there to cover it up. And you just fold the legs up just like that. That will secure them into place. Bring the whole Tetrajet over. Go ahead, fold the arms down at the side from the armpit joint. Just like so. Now, this is where you want to pay attention. On the inside of the arm here, 2 slots. You want to rotate that down. There's 2 slots on the 2 tabs, on the leg, and you're going to just go ahead and peg it in. You're going to have to play with it a little to get everything lined up. It's almost a blind fold, but you can kind of get it. Just sure if with time and playing with man, eventually do this all natural. Man, struggling with toy. Do I have? Oh, make sure that's on that. Sometimes the leg does pop out of joint a little on the back, and that can cause the problem. Now everything's secured. Go ahead, fold this whole section down. That it's sitting, the nose cone is sitting upwards like that. And now we come to the wings. Basically what you want to do, fold them down. There's a little tab right here that's going to fit underneath the nose cone. At the same time, there's these 2 tabs here that will fit into the slots on the upper forearm. That is a blind peg. And I'm not even sure if it's really necessary because once you have that front tab in, it kind of does hold everything in place. Come around the back, we're just about done. Unpeg the thruster from there, fold it down, bring it down like that, and then what you're going to want to do is put your thumbs on the joints underneath, press up on that gray slot, and basically push this up until it pegs into place. There's your back section. Coming underneath the jet, you have a couple different options where you can plug the null rays in. The instructions say to do it on these shoulder ports where they were in robot mode, but are now on an angle. And there you go. There's Starscream in its Tetrajet form. I like it. I don't think it's a shell former. As you saw, there was a lot going on with the shell in terms of positioning the wings, the cockpit and nose cone, the back thruster. But yes, I do have to admit, you do end up with his legs folded up pegged into the arms and the chest off the back. That's how it is. Now, obviously, in the vehicle mode, you can see a lot more of that dark silver battle damage, but it's not that bad. And yes, these are not perfect. This is not a perfect Tetrajet. Some people have said it looks more like a Viper from Battlestar Galactica, or Buck Rogers. I think it was Battlestar Galactica. But as I said in the beginning, outside of Masterpiece, I think this is the best we're going to get. Although I do remember the Titanium line from way back in the early 2000s, and we did get some pretty nice looking Tetrajets of the Seekers. But the nose cone was not as pronounced as this, and it was, it was one of those deals where once you got the figure out of the packaging, if it hadn't fallen apart, you were kind of good. But I do like that it is a little bit on the small side, a little bit bigger than my palm. But that's the name of the game nowadays with these figures. But yeah, so we'll pause, and I'll give you my final thoughts. I think it's still a little too early in the release of Voyager Starscream to properly gauge the fan community's feelings on this figure. I think it's fine. I know there's already been some concerns about the shell formery nature of it, that chest panel and stuff. But I think for what it is, it's a fantastic figure. And hey, we're getting that, Season 1, Episode 1 of the original Transformers cartoon vehicles rolling out. I mean, the Tetrajet is one of the most iconic images and vehicles from that first season that's really, outside of Titanium, has never been properly represented. You had the nod in Cybertron with Supreme Starscream, in Japan, the Voyager Starscream in that vehicle mode. But I think this is the closest we've gotten. This is, again, one more time, the best we're going to get outside of Masterpiece. And I think it's definitely worth a pickup. I was very lucky. These are starting to show up in Walmarts, and I have a good friend from Sabertron.com, Rodimus Prime, who very generously picked it up for me. All I had to do was pay for the figure and shipping, and that's how I was able to bring it to you. So, without further ado, and without much more words, this is your old pal Chuck for Starscream. We will see you next time.